All right, so let me just show you that example of the math example first. Okay, so what this instructor did is he just uploaded white blank PowerPoint slides. So he's using it as a whiteboard, right? And then you open it up in the app, and he can draw just like he would if he was standing in front of a class on a whiteboard. So let me just show you that one first.
Okay, so let's go over what we've just been talking about. Let's start with solving for exponential equations. For example, if I have 5 raised to the x plus 3 power equals 25, how do we solve a problem like this? Well, again, we need to apply the rules of opposites. And the opposite of an exponential function is, hopefully you're all screaming it out right now. Yes, the opposite of an exponential is a logarithm. So what we're going to do is log both sides. And the base I'm going to pick is going to be the same base as this.
All right, so that's, you can see he's using our doodle tool there. And you can get to that tool actually from the commenting window. So let me just show you where that shows up. So if I'm going to record, let's say I'm going to choose an audio recording. I click on the mic, I click allow, just like Laura said. And then now while I'm talking, you see I have a pen tool down here. I can click on that and choose a different color if I like, but let's say I want to stay with red. I can just draw right on the screen, and it's synced up with my speaking. So just like the instructor used his stylus, I'm using my trackpad there, but it's the same thing. And you could also toggle off the fade effect. So right now it's fading, but if I wanted to keep everything on there, I could just check off fade, and it would stay as a permanent ink, basically, on the page there.
Does it fade after a certain time, I guess, when that fade feature?
Yeah, it begins to fade after a few seconds. I think it'll be completely gone within 20 seconds if you wanted to, but you can leave it as permanent too. All right, so one thing, like Laura mentioned, there is a lot more space for the central media here. So when you're looking at a thread, what we call this part here that you're looking at, the slides, the images, the movies, that's what we call our central media. So if you've used the old VoiceThread, you know that this was a much smaller space, but now it expands to fit the size of your window. So it's as big as you need it. Over here is the conversation channel. All right, and you can see each comment is represented by a unique avatar. So students' comments would appear here in sequence. So the top comment is the first one, and then each comment that comes in would be underneath, and you could scroll through that way. All right, I'm going to show you a couple of the features that are new on the new VoiceThread. So right now, if you notice here, this instructor used a PowerPoint presentation, okay, and he has text on the screen here, but he records a webcam video. I can change the size of the window so I don't block any of the text, or I can also move it around. So if I want to move it to a different part of the screen, I can do that as well. So I'll play it, and you'll see how that looks.
On the slide here, you see 3 imaginary rules that have been set by previous courts. So in the case of Phillips v. Smith, a 2011 case in blue on the far left, the court ruled, Phillips ruled, that a student may delay taking a test if the...
All right, so as you can see, he left his webcam comment there. You could also record webcam as the central media. All right, so you don't need to just upload PowerPoints. You can use just about any file you have on your computer, but you could also record directly from your webcam. And I know a lot of instructors do that more for like introductions. So if you're going to create a thread in the beginning to introduce yourself, to have the students introduce themselves, that's a frequent choice they'll make, is to record central media webcam. You can also, let me go in to edit this one here. So you can also add media sources. So our media sources right now, we have 4 of them. We're always looking to add more and to integrate with your systems. But for right now, you can add images, slides, whatever content you have on other VoiceThreads. You can also add videos from Khan Academy. You can add Flickr, Creative Commons images, and public domain images from the New York Public Library. So all of these can be added. So if I click on the New York Public Library, I can just select an image. I can import that guy. Hold on one second. And you'll see now he's added to my VoiceThread presentation, right? So it's just that simple. You can always add more. You can record from your webcam. The URL option, I don't want to confuse people with this one because sometimes they think you might be able to add a YouTube video this way. You can add YouTube links, but not as central media. So this URL option is only for a file that's on the internet, and the URL has to point to that file. So if you're not a tech-savvy person, I would stay away from that. But if you do have a URL that ends in a .mov or .jpg or some kind of file extension, you can add that this way. If it ends in .com or .org or .edu, then that URL points to a web page. So we can't add web pages as central media. So just be aware of that fact. But like Laura said, most of the time you'll be going through my computer to add stuff.
George, could you go back to media source?
Sure.
Where did you get the images? New York Public?
New York Public Library. These are all public domain images, so there are no copyright issues to worry about. I know when it comes to fair use in education, it's not very strict, and I know a lot of people can, it's not like you're going to get arrested for using an image that you found somewhere. But just as a best practice, we don't recommend using copyrighted images. Obviously, it'd be very hard for anyone to find out if you did. But so these are Creative Commons licensed for Flickr and public domain licensed for the New York Public Library. So, and it does bring in the link to the citation, so you don't have to worry about that stuff there. But then bringing it in just as easy as clicking on import, you get the notification it was imported, and then you can X out of that screen and you'll see it's added to your thread.
Okay, thank you.
You can also rearrange slides just by dragging and dropping them. You'll notice there's a little pencil icon in the corner of each slide. That's if you want to edit the slide. So like Laura mentioned, you can replace a slide if there's a typo in your PowerPoint, something like that. Sometimes students may take a picture with their mobile phone, and it may come in at a different orientation, so the picture's upside down. You can rotate the image as well, just in case that happens. You can add links. As you can see here, it pulled the citation in, so you have the link directly to that file. But if you wanted to add, let's say, a YouTube link, you can add that as the title of a slide. I usually prefer to add it as a text comment. So what I'll do frequently, let's say I wanted to share an article from the Washington Post, right? I'll leave an audio comment saying, hey, students, I read a great article this week about what we were talking about in Chapter 2. I'm going to put a link to it right after this as a text comment. I'd like you to read it and share your thoughts, right? And then you can just copy and paste a URL as a text comment. It's clickable, and that's usually how we add YouTube links or article links as text comments in line. But I usually recommend giving some context. Don't just throw the link up there, right? All right, and commenting. All right, so audio and webcam comments we covered. You can also upload video files. So this is more for more tech-savvy folks. So I don't know where you guys are on the spectrum, but we did have, as an example, a music teacher who wanted to interweave some musical pieces into his comment that he was discussing. So he mixed his audio files, his comment and some music that he faded in and out and did that type of thing and uploaded it. So if you're tech savvy, if you do audio editing, you can upload that through here, audio or video. If you're not, then I would just stick with the classics, right? The audio and the webcam. The telephone commenting is there in case of emergency. We usually, nowadays that everybody has a phone and we have a free app, if your microphone's not working on your computer, we would just recommend using the app, using your phone on your, using your mic on your phone, I should say. But just in case of emergency, you can use the telephone comment. All you need to do is put in your phone number, click call me, and you'll get it's basically just like leaving a voicemail. You get an automated call from VoiceThread. They say, leave your message at the beep. You start recording your comment. And because you clicked on the phone icon on this slide, on this thread, it puts your comment right in the conversation channel here. All right, so the audio quality on a phone call is probably not going to be as good as with a microphone, so just keep that in mind. But it's a good backup. And we did actually have a student once I worked on the higher ed level before I started working at VoiceThread, and we had a student once who was panicking, and she called us up and said, "Oh my God, my parents have an old desktop computer and they don't have a microphone, and I have to record audio comments for my VoiceThread presentation. What do I do?" And we told her about the phone commenting, and it saved her grade. So that's just more like in case of emergency, break glass type of thing, but you can use it. All right, so I did want to show you this example. So there's two things I can show you here. One is comment moderation, and the other would be comment reordering. And this is kind of an example that could use both. So this teacher is an ESL teacher. And what she wanted to do is ask her students a question and then have them record their responses so she could check their pronunciation of English. But so let me, hang on one second. Let me move, I have the videos in the way here. Let me get this video out of the way. All right, so if I click on the, this is what we call our postcard viewer, you can see the entire thread here. So you can see each one of these is a little webcam video, just 7 or 8 seconds each, that she recorded a question. So what she, in essence, did was turn this VoiceThread into like a short answer speaking test, right? So it's each one of these is one question, and she asked the students to leave an answer. So this obviously works very well for language, but this could work in any subject, right? Whether you're a math teacher, an economics teacher, a history teacher, any questions you want to ask your students, instead of going to that 1990s Scantron technology, you can use VoiceThread, right? And then you can access it and give feedback and all of that good stuff. So in this particular example, this instructor didn't find a need to moderate comments. So all of her comments from the students are all public. All right, so I'm just going to play a couple of seconds of this so you can see how it goes, and then I'll show you how to moderate.
Morning. My name is Rasha Alukeli. What's your full name? What shall I call you?
All right, so she asks, "What's your name? What should I call you?"
My name is Fatma Badi, and you can call me Fatma.
All right, so each student takes a turn answering.
Hi, my name is Basma Hazim Sultan, and you can call me Basma.
All right, so for a language, this is fairly obvious, the benefits, right? You can hear the pronunciation, you're engaging your students, and it's all asynchronous, so they can take as many turns as they need to get it right. I know that's one of the big pressures with speaking in public. People tell you that that's their number one fear, right? The old Seinfeld joke that the number one fear is public speaking, which means that people would rather be in the coffin than giving a eulogy at a wake, right? So, and I think that's true, right? People are afraid to speak in public, and primarily because you get one shot, right? You don't get to re-record yourself, but on a VoiceThread you do. So what you'll see is the quality goes way up, right? Because if a student makes a mistake, they don't have to use that as their example. They can stop and re-record until they get it right. So you're kind of building practice in there. So if this instructor, let's say this wasn't an ESL class, let's say this was a history class, and the teacher wants to know, when was the Battle of Saratoga fought, right? They don't want all the other students to hear each other's answers. So all they have to do to turn on comment moderation is go into their thread, right, on the Create tab here, go to Options, and then Playback Settings, and they can check off Enable Comment Moderation. And what that'll do is it'll make all the student comments hidden from each other. The instructor could see and hear all of them. The student who left the comment could see and hear their own comment, so they'll know they left it. But you can turn that feature on so nobody else can see it, okay? And what that looks like is this. So this was a workshop that I gave, and I asked all these instructors to leave an introduction. So when you play the comment here, you'll see there's a little eyeball icon now because I turned on moderation. If I want to hide this comment, I can just,
Doug, we're so happy to have.
Hold on one second. I can click on the eyeball and it turns it to a closed eye. So now you'll know that comment is hidden. And you'll also notice it's offset and it's grayed out a little bit. There's a little visual indicator. So you know that this comment is not public. If I want to turn it back on again, I just click on the eye and now it's visible to everybody. All right, so that's comment moderation, and that's great for assessment purposes, but it's also, you could use it for any number of things. If there's private questions that you may be asking your students, something that's more personal in nature, and you want the students to feel free to share, but they may not want to share with everybody in the class, right? Another thing you'll notice on this slide is that my comments, my feedback is right underneath each comment. But the way that this was structured was this was during a live session, and I shared this link with everybody in the group. There were over 100 people here. So instead of taking time during an hour-long workshop to have 100 people introduce themselves, I shared the link and gave them 3 minutes to leave an introduction, right? So then the next day, I could go through and listen to all their introductions and reply to them. But all my replies would have been underneath that long list of comments. So what I did was just reorder them. So when you leave your comment, you can reorder it just by clicking and dragging and dropping it underneath the person you're speaking to. All right, so you can only do that if you have editing rights. But as long as you have editing rights, you can leave a comment, respond to a student, and drag your comment right to underneath theirs. So it'll appear that you were responding almost in real time, even though you may have not gotten to it for another day or two, right? Another use of comment reordering is to kind of socially engineer the quality of your conversation. So frequently what students will do is they'll listen to your comment, right? You give some kind of a mini lecture on this slide, and then let's say you ask your students questions, they're going to start responding. Now the first student who responds may leave a terrible answer, right? They may have missed the whole point of what you were saying. They may not have really done the readings, and they're leaving a poor example of what you're looking for. But when the next student after that comes in, they're going to hear that example, and they're going to kind of lower their standard to meet that level, right? But let's say the fourth or fifth student down the line is your A+ student who leaves a great example, a great answer. You can take that student's answer and drag it up to the top. So now everyone who comes into this thread is going to hear you, and they're going to hear that great example next. And they're going to say, oh boy, this student did the reading. They know what they're doing. I'm going to have to go back and brush up on what I'm doing to match this, right? And you can kind of bury the bad answers at the bottom, or even hide them, right? Turn on comment moderation and hide the bad answers, and write, and say to the students, hey, I asked you a specific question. You didn't really answer it properly. Go back and re-record it, right? So you can kind of socially engineer a voice thread in a way that you can't a Skype conversation or a Zoom conversation, right? Where it's all live. This way, the asynchronous brings out the quality. All right, so I showed you the math example. All right, so I have a few examples to show you, but is there any questions on any of the stuff that I showed you already?
When you said that you could moderate the comments, and when you click that feature to enable the moderation, does that mean that when everybody posts, it's invisible only to you? You can see it all, and then if I choose, I can make it visible? Is that how that works?
Exactly. So once I turn on moderation, every comment that comes in from that point on will have the closed eye next to it.
Okay.
If I wanted to make them visible, I could.
Okay.
But you can also turn it on after the fact if you want to go and hide some comments that weren't very good, right? Or somebody may have said something inappropriate, whatever it is. You can always turn on moderation after the fact and then just go back and hide the ones that you want to hide.
Thank you.
All right. So I did want to show you this example. Like Laura showed you, there are some great examples of voice threads out there. There are some very creative people, but you don't need to reinvent the wheel to use VoiceThread, right? So, we showed you the kind of traditional use of VoiceThread is upload a PowerPoint presentation and narrate over it as a mini lecture, right? So that's kind of a standard way to use it. That's pretty simple. It only takes a few clicks. Here's another example that's very simple, but also very powerful. This student shared this VoiceThread with their teacher. So what this is a rough draft of a paper. So the student could share this securely, and I'll show you how to do that real quick. So let's say I wanted to share this thread with just the teacher, not with the whole group, right? I click share. It brings up this sharing menu. All right, now all I need to do to share with the teacher is go to my contacts and find that person in my contacts, click on their name, and then share it with them. All right, now this is just shared one-on-one from me to the professor. So for formative assessment, this is like a virtual office hours. right? And the beauty of this is that not only is it virtual, but you don't have to schedule anything. So instead of having to come up with a time that works on Zoom for you and for the student, and then the student's 15 minutes late because of this or that, the other thing, you can just do it on a VoiceThread and get to it when you want to, on your schedule. All right, so on this example, the teacher left a number of different comments, and you can see because it is in portrait mode, the text is a little bit small here, right? It's not oriented the way we'd like, but we can zoom in. So you can zoom right into it as far as you want and get a much better view. Let me play a few seconds of this for you so you can see what this instructor did. And notice she's using the doodle tool to point out parts of the text she's discussing.
Before, what I was saying was, when you introduce this idea of the authentic form of thought and action, you need to explain what that is precisely. Okay, you jump straight into saying that it has to do with the interaction between students and teachers. Okay, and then you bring in this concept of consciousness, but these are all terms of free.
All right, so she goes through on each page, and you can see there are different comments she's leaving on each one. And this is something where, because the VoiceThread's a living, breathing kind of document, the student could then go back and redo their paper and upload the better version to this very same VoiceThread. And now what you've done is basically turned this from a virtual office hours into a portfolio, right? So VoiceThread could kind of overlap a number of different things that you may really want to do, and it can do it all in one space, right? So you don't need separate links. You don't need to track down, well, let me find your original version. It's all there for you, right?
And are they uploading this as a Word document?
Yep, it could be a Word document. It could be a PDF. It doesn't matter. All right, now here's an example. This is a conversation between two students. And what they could have done, I don't know if they did this. I don't know if they knew about this feature, but if you notice, their conversation's going back and forth. And this is for an Italian class. So their instructor gives them a PowerPoint presentation with the script on it, and they're supposed to read it back and forth to each other. All right, so this is another example of where this first student, Vendetta, could have recorded all of her lines when she wanted to, and then the next student who comes in, Elizabeth, could have recorded hers the next day or the next week even, and just dragged her comments and dropped them where she needs to have the conversation make sense. So even student-to-student collaboration doesn't need to take place at the exact same time, right? So you've removed scheduling from the equation. All right, I have one more example I wanted to show you. One second. All right, so when Laura showed you the sharing, all right, if you drag and drop a VoiceThread into a group, so let's say I wanted to take this thread and share it with the group. I drag it in there and I drop it, and now I'm presented with a few different sharing options, right? By default, they can view and comment, but I can also give them editing rights, which means that they would be able to see any moderated comments. They could edit the thread as they want to, right? So just make sure they're aware of the power they have there. But where this comes into play, and this was a thread that I created with my students, we turned their math textbook into a VoiceThread. All right, so in this example, all of the students got to contribute to this. So we turned this VoiceThread basically into a wiki or a Google Doc, right, where everybody can edit the same exact content. And I always think that if your students can teach a concept, that's the best assessment that you're going to get of whether they know it or not. So I was always concerned with assessment first. And I thought this example with their math teacher, we worked on this to have the students deliver instruction on the VoiceThread. Now, each one of these slides is created by different groups of students. And I'll play a few seconds of this just so you can see what they did here.
When you're graphing the function, the first thing you want to do is find the equation. Then you're going to want to substitute in for x something over in the x column. For instance, 0. Then you get an equation like y equals 0 plus 1.
All right, so there's a lot of things going on here. There was a lot of logistics to get the students set up into groups and to explain to them what they needed to do. But then all I had to do was share the editing rights to them, which was just a simple drag and drop. And they instantly have access to it, right? Now all they need to do is upload their own slide, narrate. They're using the pen tool, right? So this looks a lot more complicated than it is. But in essence, for any individual participant here, it's very simple. And one of the things that was great about this was, we talk about engagement with technology all the time and how students would rather use technology and be creative and all these types of things. And it's true, but the reality is this is still a math lesson, right? So there's only so much excitement you're going to generate around math, right? But when we did this, the real benefit came way later. So a few months after, students were coming up to me and thanking me for doing this. And I said, well, what are you thanking me for? And they said, because I don't have to carry my 20-pound textbook home every night to study. All I have to do is go on my computer and click on this link, and I can learn from my classmates and review for the final, okay? So I thought this was something, you talk about constructivist lesson design and things like that. This was something that really struck home with me. And, the fact that the students were teaching it, not only did they know the material better, but they're learning it from each other, right? So whatever subject you teach doesn't need to be math. Any subject that has a textbook, you can do this, right? You can ask students create a slide and teach students, from page 245 to 250 in our textbook. And you can have them add more each week. And it doesn't take up class time, right? So I've seen this type of model done in a live face-to-face setting, and I think it's great. The only problem is it chews up class time. Right, so student presentations, if they take 15 minutes each and you have 50 students, that you're talking about weeks of class time where you're not giving any students instruction, they're all teaching each other. Whereas this could work as a supplement to what you teach, and it takes no extra class time to do it, right? All right, so I think that's it for my examples. Is there anything else you guys would like to see? Any other questions you have?
I think probably if you could show them that they can take a direct link from the group, and that is something that they can give to their students, and they can just from Blackboard they click there and the group is there. They don't need to even.
All right. So now, as Laura said, we're working on getting you guys set up with integration. Mm-hmm. Once you have integration set up, the group will be automatically created for you. So every class that you take will have an automatic group creation process. So you don't have to worry about any of that. And every time a student from your class clicks on a VoiceThread link, they'll be automatically added to your group. All right. But that's once integration's in place. But until that time, the workaround is not very difficult, right? So all I need to do is click on the gear next to my group, and I can get this sign up link. I can copy this, paste it in an email, put it on my Blackboard site, put it on my blog, whatever I want. Students will click on that, they can sign in, and they're automatically members of the group. All right, and I can get an overview and see who's in there. I can delete the group, I can change the name, change the header, all of that stuff. And from within the group space here, you'll notice you can add your own. So right now I'm in the 2014 Fall Workshops group, and I can see all of the threads that are here. All right, if it's one that I created, I can remove it from the group if I need to. So let's say I had an assessment, just like that example with the ESL teacher, right? I create an assessment, 25 questions where I'm asking students dates and vocabulary, things like that. I turn on comment moderation, I share it with the group, the students start answering, and I tell them, this is due by Thursday at 8 p.m. Thursday at 8 p.m. comes along, I go to my group, and all I have to do is remove this by clicking remove. And now they no longer have access to it, right? So it's that simple. If I want them to add their own presentation, all they need to do is come into the group and click add your own. And now they'll be able to either create a new thread or select ones they already created. So right from within the space, they can add their own thread. Real quick while I'm here, let me just show you these other two tabs. Our help tab, if you ever have questions about how to create stuff, how to do anything on VoiceThread, you can always click on the help tab and put in whatever keywords you need, find your answers to creating, sharing, commenting, setting up groups, all of that stuff, right from within the help tab. We also have, from this menu, tutorials. So these are short, they're like 1.5 minutes long each. If you want to review how to create, or more importantly, if you want to direct your students how to do this stuff, just send them to the tutorial tab right on their homepage. They can learn how to create, comment, doodle, share, and you can learn more about comment moderation here as well. The last thing I will show you is in the About section here. We have our digital library, which is where Laura was showing you some of those examples if you wanted to get some more ideas. We also have our blog here. So I would recommend checking this out. And if you are using VoiceThread with your students and you've had some success with it, we're always looking for guest bloggers. So we have probably half of our content on our blog is from guest bloggers. And we would love to have some representation from you on here. So just let us know if you're ever interested. The current post that we just posted today is our archive from our summer workshops. So you're welcome to check out some of those workshops here. And I think that's it, Laura. Do we have anything else that you'd like me to go over?
No, I think that's it. Do you guys have any questions?
No.
You got a lot of ideas, right? A lot of.
There was a lot to throw at you.
Yeah, might be, yeah, too much. It's like, oh.
You might think of something on the way home or the walk to the car, and feel free to let us know. I'd love to answer any questions you have.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you so much, George, for doing this and joining us.
All right. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Have a great day, everyone.
You too.
Thank you.